Beloved, welcome back to the Homestead. We have been away for 10 days visiting South and North Carolina, and today we really kick off one of the biggest projects that we've ever done on the channel, where we will be starting to build from scratch the cozy cabin, the 18 by 24 log cabin. But let me catch you up a little bit. So I want to give you a little bit of a story, what happened. So we went to South Carolina, to Anderson, South Carolina, Anderson University for the national debate tournament. My son Jack, which is 19, won regionals and qualified to compete at the highest level of debate, and we are so proud of him.
Because we simply cannot blindly trust the American government. The entire purpose of the Constitution and the entire purpose of America as a whole is to not blindly trust the government.
Jack did so well. He competed in team policy as well as moot court. And, well, I'll roll in some footage right here, but we couldn't be more proud of him. Speaker awards, he finished top 20, and in team policy, number 13 out of, I think, 155. So a great, great success. It was his last tournament before he goes off to college, but we had a great time. My impression of South Carolina versus North Carolina, I can tell you. Now, as you know, I gave North Carolina official West Coast status. A good portion of the middlemen live there, and it is a place after my own heart. What a wonderful place. I can tell you, if I had to live on the East Coast, it would absolutely be North Carolina. South Carolina, not so much. It's kind of like a value version of North Carolina, but the folks were very friendly, and I can tell you one thing that they do very well, both of them, South and North, is Cathead biscuits. Goodness, if you haven't had a North Carolina biscuit, then you haven't lived life. Let's take a look at what we're doing today, and then we have a special surprise. I want to show you what's taking place in the tiny forest. I woke up to a very unpleasant surprise. The TSA or someone at the airport got into my suitcase and stole a bunch of my stuff. My grip, my camera equipment, my microphones, all that sort of thing was in a small SOE bag. Gone. Absolutely gone. What do they say about the TSA? Touch, steal, assault? Well, they're true to their name. Fortunately for you, Proho has redundancy built in. I have backups for everything. So we are running on backups. Today, we're gonna get all the logs organized and ready for assembly. Now this is a kit. Everything has been pre-cut, pre-notched. It's ready to go. As for us, we have our platform here ready to receive the logs. Flashing is all done. And I've got my manservant, Mr. Jiraiya, and my son Jack are putting some temporary decking on here so that we can walk and work off of that, as well as some temporary stairs. Now this is all going to be cedar, but you don't want to put the cedar on now because it will get all dinged up during the construction. So that's what they're working on. We've got the permanent power 100% wrapped up. We've got the meter base set, and we have a 400 amp service here, water, and Starlink, so we have our internet out here. I'm hoping to do a live stream while we're building this so you guys can follow along and kind of hang out with this as it happens in real time. While the boys are working on that, let me take you down to the tiny forest. You're not going to believe what's going on down there. What's it been, about 6 weeks since we planted a small forest here, 150 native trees. Now the original, when we first planted trees back in the old homestead, I think we did like 1,000 or 1,500. We had nearly a 98% mortality rate. Everything died. That is not the case this time. My goodness, what a difference 2 weeks makes. Everything is thriving. When I put these in, everything was turning brown. It was dying. I thought, we're going to lose them. We're going to lose them again. But they are growing like, it's unbelievable. That one flood irrigation that we did, look at how healthy they are. New shoots. They're twice the size of what they were. They're growing up out of their containers. Everything is just taking off. Let's go look at the cedars. Down by the water, I planted western red cedars, giant sequoias. Look at them. Bright green. Look at this Doug fir. That is so healthy, absolutely thriving, flourishing. When these trees started failing, I came down here and I prayed over them. I didn't know what else to do. I figured the Almighty could give me some wisdom and He certainly did. Look at the dogwoods. Triple the size that they were. And these Western Reds, these are my particular favorites. They're all green. They were all brown. They were completely red and orange. I thought that they were goners. Look at this one. It's twice the size of what it was. We're gonna have a stately forest of big cedars down here to stabilize the riverbank. Oh, I could not be happier. Look at this one. Look at that. Beautiful. These were plugs. They're twice the size. I'll give you a little tour inside of the wall tent. We'll be moving the operation. I work out of my shop, my 40 by 40 in the wintertime. In summertime, I relocate down here, the campaign headquarters on the river. So we've got that all rigged up for spring. As you probably remember, we lost our big Alpha tent. It got crushed by the snow, and this is the replacement. We didn't have any problems this year except for that awning. That awning, we had a heavy snow and I didn't get down here to get the snow off, and it did bend all the poles, but we took it apart, straightened everything out, and no problem. So what I would do in the wintertime next time is I'll remove this front awning because it doesn't have the strength that the main tent does, but everything looks good. So we're all set, ready for the spring campaign. All right, well, we'll be working out of here quite a bit this summer. All right, let's head back up and see how the boys are doing. There's something we need to check, gentlemen, before we get too carried away. Yes, the irrigation water is in. The warband house sits for us when Mrs. W and I leave, and they did flood irrigate a few days ago, but I hate to lose. Since we have it here, actually, let's go back down there and do a check and see what the soil moisture is, and we might start the flood irrigating here while we're getting ready for the walk. Goodness, everything is taken off while we were gone. We are ready for our first harvest. We have our neighbor, this is all organic hay, and our neighbor comes and bales it, and we just sell it to him. But we're ready for our first cutting here. It looks like we're getting pretty close. Even though we irrigated a week ago or so, it looks pretty dry. What I've noticed is that we have a lot more wind. The locals say that it's windier here than it used to be, and I think a lot of it has to do with massive logging to the west where the wind comes from. I think having so many of those big trees gone that the wind, it's less of a windbreak, and when you have this wind that's driving across the field, you know, it really carries the moisture out. Let's take a look and see what it looks like here. Definitely it's moisture in it, but it's pretty dry. I think we should irrigate while we have that water. Let's take advantage of it. We'll get a good deep soak on here and see what happens to these trees in another 10 days. The warband said they'd set this gate. It was ready to go. Looks like it is. So these temporary tarps are superior, in my opinion, to the fixed head gates that we build, just because there's less maintenance and they're just easier. It's a little bit more work to set them, but in the long term, I think it's just a better deal. So we're gonna turn the water down here. It will turn and flow out there, and we will deep flood or deep soak that whole tiny forest there. Oh yes, this looks good. We got a full ditch of water here. So this is the other, the old school version, the wood gates compared to the tarps. I guess what's probably going to work for us is going to be a combination of both of these. So now all of this water will be, oops, I got that backwards, it'll be heading down. There it goes. Oh, I just noticed a problem. Oh goodness, it's back. This is a big problem. I believe this is Russian knapweed. We had this, it infested our last place, and we were years and years getting rid of it. We don't spray any chemicals. This is all organic, nor would I have any chemicals on my land. This all has to be removed by hand. We probably spent a couple days last season rooting all this out, and it's back. Not as bad as it was last year, but we've got to pull all this out by hand from the root before it flowers, or it will take over the field. It is horrible, a horrible invasive plant that once it gets a foothold, it's almost impossible to stop. But we can control it if we catch it early. Hateful stuff. You got to get the roots too. You leave the root in, look how long that is. You leave the root in, it'll just come right back. This is just a war of attrition here. I will not have another infestation of this stuff if I have to be out here picking it for a week. Once it gets away from you, you're done. We're just gonna have to keep working on that throughout the week. Let's go check on our head gate. Looks like the water is starting to arrive. This will fill up the dam here and then run right over there and we'll do a deep watering about 24 hours in the forest. Right here, beloved, is what wealth is gonna look like in the future. Paper, fiat currency is gonna be as toilet paper. True wealth is gonna be resource driven. Let me give you an update on the erosion problem. Some of you will remember that we have been fighting. We have a half a mile of riverfront on our land, and we've been fighting with this erosion here. Problem is that we're losing more and more land as it chunks off here where the river turns. Now, I could have this fixed in a week with the equipment that I have, but because this is a fish-bearing stream, we can't touch it. They're very touchy about these things out west. Their estimate to fix this was $300,000, which is not an option. So we've applied for federal funding, grants. That takes years. Will it ever happen? Who knows? But in the meantime, we're losing more and more riverbank that we can't do anything to stabilize because our hands are tied. So we're keeping an eye on it, and hopefully something will come through. My manservant, Mr. Jiraiya, is mowing out a spot here. We're gonna want this all cleared out so that we can pull all these logs out and get everything staged so it can go together properly. So he's doing that, and young Jack is finishing up the decking. Looks good, Jack. Looking good. Well, beloved, that's about all I had to share with you today. I just wanted to do kind of a quick walk around to see what took place. You know, 10 days is a long time to take off from a YouTube channel. It's something I've never really done before, but I used it to really do some deep thinking and trying to think, you know, what is it that we're doing here, and what is God, what's happening in this country? The thing that I'm really fighting against, and the tool that the devil I think is really pressing upon a lot of us is despair of looking at bygone days and things are not as good as they used to be. But what I'm starting to understand and what God is showing me is He has something amazing planned for those who love Him and keep His commandments, and that we need to just hang on and to be faithful and to wait, to prepare ourselves for what's coming. You know, when the disciples, there were 12 disciples that Jesus chose from all sorts, from a cross-section of society. There were lowly fishermen. There was an attorney or an educated man. There was Dr. Luke, right? A broad cross-section so that he could have disciples that were relatable to all people. And when they had walked with Jesus for a couple years and they had witnessed all of the incredible miracles that He had done, He had healed sick, He had restored withered limbs, He had raised the dead, He had walked on the water, all sorts. They had heard the audible voice of the Almighty. Do you know what He said to them? When they were marveling about all of these things, He's like, oh, you think this is impressive? You think what you've seen me do here is impressive? Just wait to see the power, the authority that I will bestow upon my saints at the latter times. And that's us, beloved. We need to prepare ourselves. We need to gird up our loins in faith and to be patient and to wait for the calling that will come. God has set aside a select group of people to do his work. And Jesus told us that all of the amazing things and the power and the authority that God gave to the disciples, that it will be much more for us. We have lived and grown up in a society of despair, of opulence, of all of the global homo and focusing on life is so easy and so good in this country. We have nothing better to do but to whine and to cry over pronouns. I tell you, beloved, I am 100% convinced. The things, the amazing miracles and the mighty works that the children of Israel witnessed that God did for them, the parting of the Red Seas, the coming out of Egypt and all the miracles and the plagues, I in my generation, we will see these things. We will see our life complete all of the things that we've believed and all of the lies that we've been taught, all of this thing is all crumbling right now. These foundations of sin and lawlessness and this government is crumbling, and God is going to be bringing in something new. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's going to be, but many people will be deceived, but not God's elect. Keep focused on the prize. Remember, this is not our home, and remember that God is going to use us as his instruments to bring in the new world, to bring in his second coming. And you may think, well, I'm not suitable. I'm not good enough. You know, I know my past, and I'm weak. What could I possibly offer God? If you think that, then you're just the type of person that he uses. He doesn't choose the smart. He doesn't choose the folks that think that are better than everyone else, that they are going to bring forth the gospel or do his work on their own merits. He chooses the least of us, beloved, like you and me. He will give us the words to speak. He will give us the power and the courage to get through these troubled times. I tell you, beloved, when these things happen, we are going to be in the age of heroism. We are going to do things and perform feats of miraculous, amazing things that we can't even imagine, but we need to stay faithful and we need to wait on him. So don't despair. Understand that God is moving and things have to take place and governments need to be torn down so something else, something better can come, and we are perfectly positioned. What an honor. What an honor to be the final generation that will be here, maybe even alive, to see the coming of the Son of Man in the heavens, and to collaborate and to be useful instruments for his work. It's an exciting time. The live stream will be coming back. I don't know that I'm going to be doing it daily, but I will do it as much as I can. The middlemen got after me. They sat me down and they told me this needs to happen. You need to get back to doing this. This is important to folks, and so that will be a priority. Mrs. W and I will carve the time out and we'll make it happen. So all these things, a lot going on, but more in the future. May God bless you and your families. Please keep us in your prayers, and we'll see you all on the next video.